Today, I am going to be diving into the topic of underwriting. And if you are new to investing, if you are new to starting a business or getting funding for your business, then you might find yourself in the same position that I found myself, sitting back thinking, what the is underwriting? Hello, thank you for visiting the page of Mr. Vincent M. Nash. On my YouTube page, I am trying to share knowledge in regards to entrepreneurship, in regards to real estate, and I just like to motivate. I just like to motivate individuals who are in a fairly same place as myself. So if you are new to investing in real estate, if you are thinking about starting a business, or if you're just looking for someone to tell you you can do it, that's the purpose of my YouTube channel. Today, I am going to be diving into the topic of underwriting. And if you are new to investing, if you are new to starting a business or getting funding for your business, then you might find yourself in the same position that I found myself, sitting back thinking, what the fuck is underwriting? I don't mean to be too crass with the language, but I honestly found myself like, man, what the hell is underwriting? What is this process that I'm going through to acquire these things that I'd like to acquire? So, what is underwriting? First, let's start with my own personal definition. The process of underwriting is when an individual or an organization acquires someone to analyze the worthiness that you provide for credit and for funding. What is your credit worthiness? What is your funding worthiness? How likely, in a nutshell, how likely are you to repay this debt? Now, when you first walk into the mortgage office, when you first talk to your lending officer, that's who you will be assigned. A lending officer, a mortgage officer, someone who is your point of contact. That person is going to help you through the application process. They are going to be your main point of communication. They are going to let you know the things that you will need to submit for your application to be reviewed. Once they get it, they send it off to an underwriter. It seemed like the Wizard of Oz. They would take my documents, send it off to somebody behind the yellow curtain, and I had no idea what in the world was going on. Throughout the process, they request different things that they need from you, which I'm going to kind of break down when I go through my segments. But you never really have contact with the underwriter, or at least I haven't. That is a person separate from who you have contact with. And I would imagine that the reason that they do that is because they want to have an arbitrary person who is completely focused on analyzing you and your numbers without any input or without any encouragement from outside sources. Reason why. So you don't actually have contact with the underwriter. Now, let's talk about some of the things that they're going to request of you in your application to send over to the underwriter. First being credit. Okay? Now, Your credit is your credit score. Your credit score is going to fall somewhere between 500 and 850. 500 being the low, extremely unfavorable as far as credit worthiness, all the way up to 850. 850 is excellent. Excellent. The sweet spot, so to say, is around 720 to 740. What do I mean by the sweet spot? If you land at about a 720 to 740, you will receive lower rates on your mortgage, lower rates on your funding, and more favorable terms. What that means for you is that you are going to save thousands on thousands of dollars. We're talking about 15-year mortgages, 30-year mortgages, funding that lasts over 6 to 10 years when you talk about business loans. The difference that you will end up paying based off of that interest rate is thousands and thousands of dollars. It can be quite a bit of money. So the better your credit score is, the less that you will end up paying, i.e., for a house over the course of a 30-year mortgage. Your credit score comes from 3 different sources: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. So these are the 3 major credit reporting agencies. Your credit score can adjust a tad based on who requests the credit information. So if you are going and you try to get a car loan, the scores that come back based off of you trying to acquire a car loan may be slightly different than the scores that you might get based off of a mortgage office requesting your credit. It is good to know an approximate of where those lie, and you can do that by, I personally have an Experian account. You can go to Credit Karma, and they will give you the credit score that you have from the 3 different reporting agencies. And that's good to know. Although it's an approximate, it still will let you have a roundabout idea of where you land. Okay, so you'll know I'm around 720, 740, or if you're at a 600, 650 and you want to work on it a little bit, you have the knowledge to understand where you are and what you do, what you need to do to get where you want to be. Okay, so those are the 3 credit reporting agencies. Now, what do they look at to tabulate your score? And these are the things that you can focus in on to try and get a better score. Well, one thing they do is they look at your credit history. So how long have you had credit? This is why you never really want to cut off a credit card. Just get in good terms so that they can report on-time payments. But the longer that you have credit, then the better. What does that mean? That means that you have had credit for quite a period of time. That gives them a little bit of trust to know that you can sustain that credit. Okay, because you didn't cancel, it didn't fall out on you. You've had it for quite some time, so you must be able to manage it in a way. So that's one of the things they look at. They also look at your mix of credit. So the more different types of credit you have, the better. A retail credit card, a business loan, a mortgage loan. These are all various types of credit. The more credit that you can have adds to your credit mix, which again shows that you can manage various types of credit over a long period of time. Now, the other thing they look at, obviously, is your credit payment history. This is a big one. You do not want to make late payments. They look very unfavorably upon late payments. Whatever you do, make your payments online. I personally would suggest that you put your bills on auto pay. All right? Just put them on auto pay so you don't even have to worry about it, and it'll always pay at least the minimum due. Always at least pay the minimum due by the due date. And the longer you have on-time payments, your score will just continue to go up and up. So get the credit, all right? If you don't have any credit, go out and at least get a $500 credit card, a $1,000 credit card, okay? And begin to use that, which brings me to my next point that they look at, your utilization rate. So when you go out and get credit, they also look at how much of that credit you have used. Typically, you don't want to use more than about 30% of your credit, okay? So if you go out and you get a $1,000 credit card, you want to try to maintain at least 30% or less utilization rate. And what I would suggest, just get you a credit card, use it for little things like a meal here or some gas here, things that you know you can pay off. Then when you get the bill, just pay it off in full and just continue to do that month by month, little bitty charges, get the bill, pay it off. After about 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, that is going to increase your credit score and is going to give you a credit history that you can be proud of. And you can go in and you can begin to look at the things like funding and investing and the mortgages that you want to get for the real estate that you need. But credit is important, all right? And then the last thing you want to know is that every time you do an inquiry, this is a small piece, but it's good to know. Every time you inquire about your credit, it takes a little bit of a ding, about a 2 to 3 point hit, but it will rebound. The reason they look at that is because if they see a lot of inquiries, then that shows you're trying to get a lot of different sources of credit, which might not be the best thing. So these are all things, at the end I told you we're going to talk about quantitative and qualitative. I feel that with each one of these segments, you can analyze it in a quantitative manner, which is really cut and dry. But then there's also a qualitative piece to it. So the credit score, although it's quantitative and it has a number, it's within the underwriting process, which I believe has more qualitative points to it. And I'll explain those to you. I don't mean to throw out terms that might be a bit foreign, but we will get a little bit deeper into it. But this is one of the things that they're going to look at. So they're going to look at the credit, look at your credit score, and then those things like credit history, mix of credit, utilization rate, repayment history, inquiries. Those are the executions. Those are the specific things that you do that will then affect your credit score. Okay? So this underwriter, this guy in the Wizard of Oz behind the yellow curtain, that's one of the things they're going to do. So what does that mean for you? If you know that you want to invest in a home, if you know that you want to open a business and get funding, then you already know kind of where you need to be as far as credit. Try to be at least at a 650, okay? Go out, and I would suggest that you partner with a credit repair agency. I'm personally working with Lexington Law, who has been great for me. And this is the reason why, especially in my community, I think it's important to use credit repair. You will often hear people say, I can do that. I can fix my credit. I know what I need to do. I know the letters that I need to send it to. I've talked to people. We've had that conversation. 6 months later, a year later, it's the same conversation. And that's because time is valuable. And time is something that we unfortunately do not have on our side. You get into the day-to-day activities that keep you busy, if you have a home, if you have a job. And these are the tedious tasks that can sometimes be pushed off, procrastinate. Next thing you know, you haven't done it. A whole year has gone by. So that investment that you're trying to get to has now been pushed off because you haven't focused in on the credit. So why not go out and get an expert to help you do that? All right. I think that's very important. But credit is a very important part of the underwriting process. So put that right there. Credit. Okay. Now, let's go to the second segment. So here's this underwriter. They're looking at your application. They looked at the credit. They went through the credit. One of the next things that they're going to do, and this is important to understand, a lot of times underwriters will perform what's called a CCAP. Underwriters will perform what's called a CCAP. A CCAP is the governmental courts within your jurisdiction. The courts can post any judgments, any liens, or anything regarding your criminal history. So the CCAP is your criminal history. The CCAP covers the courts. So I had a guy come to me and he said, I don't understand this. One of my friends, he said, on my credit, you can't find this particular creditor or this particular debt that he owed. It was nowhere on his credit. However, it was stopping him and preventing him from getting the loan that he was looking to get. And after talking with him, I said, that's because that's a judgment. That's a judgment that's on your CCAP. The CCAP lets them know your criminal history. So if you have if there are any crimes, if there are any charges that are in your criminal history, they will review that. They will look at that. And they will take that into consideration when deciding whether or not to accept you as a client. Any judgments that you have. So if somebody's taking you to court and they have a judgment, let's say you have, when you were 17 years old, you rented out an apartment. You were young, things weren't quite on the right path. Maybe you ended up leaving that apartment without paying your balance in full. Maybe that landlord took you to court and got a judgment. You never paid. They never asked you to pay. However, it's a judgment. And now later on in life, you're a bit more established. You want to go out and you want to buy a home for your family. You're sitting across from the mortgage guy and he says, I got a call from the underwriter. They ran a CCAP and they see you have a judgment for $2,000. We need that to be satisfied. They can run your CCAP and they can say, hey, we see you have an outstanding child support judgment for $7,000. We need that to be satisfied. Okay? This is your CCAP. So again, for real life, what does that mean to us? That means my brothers, my sisters, be knowledgeable in these streets. Don't go out there and fuck yourself. There are, unfortunately, I feel, so many mistakes that are made in our youth that we cannot recover from in our adulthood. I personally thank God every day because He blessed me to have made little mistakes, recoverable from mistakes, things that I don't have any felonies, thank the Lord, on my record. And when I started my business, when I began to get funding, they ran my CCAP. And unfortunately, here's the qualitative part, which I'll get into. Those are the things that one can come up with their own conclusions from, although it may not be true to you anymore. We live in a society where there are systems in place. You hear the term all the time, systematic racism. My brothers and sisters, this is one of those systems. You want to go out and invest. You want to go get funding. You want to participate in this free market, in this God-given love of this capitalistic society we call America, and all the benefits that can come from your entrepreneurial spirit and putting the work in. But there are systems, CCAPs, credit, that have been put in place. And there are gatekeepers who manage those systems, who at the end of the analyzation have both quantitative numbers that they can use, but they also have the qualitative, which is their opinions. So when you're out there in the streets Know that. When you make the decision, fuck that, I'm not paying him, I'm good on that. Understand that these, during the underwriting process, can resurface themselves. So we need to take care of our business. I said this to one of my friends, and I wholeheartedly mean this, and I'm going to say it to you. If you want to live the greatest life that you can live above board, then you can't be in the black market. You know, you can't be cutting corners. You can't be scheming. You can't be doing people wrong. You can't be not paying your debts. Because to get to the ultimate level of American society, you need mortgage, you need lenders. In our community, unfortunately, a lot of us were raised. What were we taught? If you can't pay for it, you don't need it. That is completely false. Rich people, wealthy individuals, do not use their own money. They use debt. They use debt. They use that debt to then go out and acquire revenue and more means for making money. They don't use their own personal money. If you're using up all the money in your own pocket, that's going to deplete your operational flow. The key to being in business is staying in business. If you, no matter what problems you have, if you can wake up tomorrow and your business is running and that money is coming in, then you can face those challenges. The key to being in business is staying in business. Okay? So we talked a little bit about credit. We talked about the CCAP. With the CCAP, they're going to run the judgments, they're going to run liens, and they're going to just take a look at you as a person. Are you even the type of individual that we want to do business with? The third point that I want to talk about is income. That's the third thing that the underwriter is going to look at. So when I say income, this is what I mean. If you go in and you want to purchase a home, first-time home buyer, you need to have reserves. They want to see that you have some amount of money in the bank. They want to see that you have some type of reserves, okay? They do not want to see those funds come from a business account. So you, on your application, have to put down how much you make in income. A common question, right? How much do you make in income? Well, let's say you say $100,000. They're going to want to see the checks that paid you, but then they are going to want to see the account that those checks were deposited into. I run my own business, but when I do investing, I can't show them my business account and say, oh, I got all this money. They don't want to see that. They want to see my personal account, and they want to see the funds coming from the business account into my personal account, and they usually want about 2 months of reserves, no non-sufficient fund fees, no negative items, a clean personal checking account. So they're going to analyze also your income and your income levels. All right. So that's very important to know. What that means, make sure you got your W-2s, make sure you have your W-2s in order, but more importantly, make sure you establish a personal checking account and start putting money in it. And never touch it. Just only put money in it. If you know that you want to be an investor, if you know that you want to get funding, if you know you want to go out and become a first-time home buyer, then understand I need an account that may need some reserves in it. And just start putting money in there. A little bit of money. A little bit of money. Keep growing it. And don't touch it. Let that be your account that you can use when you go in to get that mortgage. So income is the third thing that they're going to look at. You want to make sure that you have a source of income, steady income that you can document and that you can show. The fourth thing that they're going to look at is your debt. Now, they're going to get your debt from what? From your credit report, from your CCAP. Those are the two main places, from your credit report and from your CCAP. They can pull any judgments from your CCAP. They can pull any liens that you have. The government, if they put out a tax warrant on you, then that's going to be on there. On your credit, they're going to see what creditors you owe. Do you owe a furniture store? Do you owe Best Buy? Who do you owe and what debts do you have? They're going to see if you have any mortgages that you owe. They're going to see if you have any loans that are outstanding. All of these things are going to come pretty much through your credit and through your CCAP. So they're going to look at all of that debt and they're going to analyze it. The fifth part, they're going to look at your debt to income ratio. So how much income are you making versus the amount of debt that you owe? How much income are you making versus the amount of debt that you owe? Because if a person has too much debt based on the amount of income that they're making, then they are going to see that as uncredit worthy or unlending worthy. So, credit, CCAP, your income, your debt, and your income to debt ratio. These are the things that you need to have in your mind when you are about to enter into a process of investing or looking for funding. You are going to go through this process called underwriting. Now, throughout this spiel, so to say, you've heard me use the terms quantitative and qualitative. And let me break that down for you. When I say quantitative is numbers. It's cut and dry. Okay? Quantitative is Giannis Antetokounmpo scores 31 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists a game. You can't deny that. I'm not saying that that's exactly what it is, but he pretty much gets it in like that. But you cannot deny that. These are quantitative is your credit score is 740. It is what it is. It's the number, and if you base it based off those numbers, then the answer to whether or not I'm going to accept your application is cut and dry, right? But then there's the qualitative piece. Qualitative is more subjective. And this is what's important for my brothers and sisters to understand. I talked about systematic racism a little bit earlier. These gatekeepers that you will sit across from oftentimes don't come from the same backgrounds, do not come from the same experiences. So when they look at your file, they see the numbers, but they're also going to look at the things like the CCAP that we talked about, any charges that you may have. They are going to derive certain conclusions, certain theories, certain hypotheses about you based on all of this information. So I say to my young brothers and sisters, what that means is take control of your life. Don't get involved with the foolishness and the fuckery that you find out there on the streets. Don't be a follower, be a leader. Don't try to be the coolest, try to be the smartest. Don't try to be the toughest, try to be the most visionary. Go out there and become the best engineer your city has seen, the best lawyer your city has seen, the best entrepreneur your city has seen. You do not have to get stuck in this maze, in this minefield called life. Take advantage, take control of what you are doing in your life. Try to envision where you want to get to. And let me tell you, it's not through the streets. Success is not through the streets. And anybody from the streets will tell you that. This is not the most well-kept secret. Anybody who's been in the streets and made it out can tell you the same thing. That's not where it's at. And unfortunately, too many of our youth have made mistakes in their youth that they cannot recover from in their adulthood. So while you have the time, take control. Take control of your life. When I started my company, I had a motto. And that motto was, I just want to do it like it's never been done before. I just want to take non-emergency medical transportation to a height that has never been done. Now, I may not have done that. I'm not saying that that's what I've done. There are companies that are larger than me, doing better than me. But it's just the mentality to go out there and give it your best and try to be the best that you can be at what you're doing. You will one day need to sit across from someone who will need to lend you $25, $50, $75, $100,000. And you need to put yourself in the best position to be successful. Because the rich people do not use their own money. They use debt. They use debt. So I hope that some of the knowledge that I have been able to share with you has been useful. This has been all about underwriting and what underwriting entails. Like I said, when I first started, I really had no idea what I was doing. But hopefully, I've been able to just share some of my experiences with you so that it can help you when you're in the same position sitting across from a mortgage or a lending officer. Once again, I thank you for coming to my channel. If you like what you've heard, please like and subscribe. Hit the red button. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I really would appreciate it. As always, God bless, and catch you next time.